Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was created in the Support for Wayward subreddit by a deleted user. The post is titled, "I cheated and emotionally abused my husband for years. We're now getting divorced. My D-Day was around 3 years ago. I confessed to it, but only after facing psychosis and a complete nervous breakdown. I feel the need to tell my story to someone unfiltered, and I plan to delete this after a few days. I hope that is accepted in this subreddit. I had been emotionally abusive towards my husband for years. I also had an affair going on and off, using his own trust against him, which I believe was yet another form of abuse. He was still incredibly loving towards me until there came a day that I simply went too far and said something so absolutely disgusting and vile that I wish I had choked on my own blood before saying it. For the first time, he lost his cool completely and retaliated, saying he would divorce me. He asked me to pack my bags, and I complied because I was scared of him. He made me sit in the car, then he drove me to my parents' home, left me at their doorstep, and left. I didn't know where to go and didn't have the courage to face my parents, so I booked a hotel room. I couldn't even comprehend what was happening to me. I had no knowledge of how to cope with this sudden change in my life. If I had known that I needed a therapist, none of this would have happened in the first place. So I did the only thing that I knew brings some temporary respite and numbness from the pain and that choking feeling in my throat. I self-harmed. It did not work as it always did. I hurt myself more and more until I ended up losing a finger. I passed out and woke up in a hospital cabin with my husband by my side. By the way he looked at me with pure disgust and hatred in his eyes, I knew he didn't want to be there. That was all it took to make me completely unravel. And I told him right then and there that I'd realized I'd been abusive towards him and that I'd do anything to make it right. I surprised myself when I said that. I still don't know how that works, but my previous therapist and I had a working theory that I was in denial that I could be an abuser, and so even though deep down I knew I was being abusive, I never dared to admit that to myself, even in my own thoughts. But the realization that my actions had made my husband hate me broke all those mental barriers I had set up, and I could finally see things with clarity. I also confessed to my affair right there. He only responded that he knew. I had left my PC at his house and he accessed my personal cloud drive, presumably to find evidence of my abusive actions to use against me in divorce, and ended up finding a lot more. He said there was no chance that we could be together ever again. While leaving, he said I should inform my parents and spend some time working on my unstable mental health. I did as he said. I spent 4 months in a psychiatric hospital under constant special supervision because I tended to hurt myself under isolation. I was diagnosed with rapid cycling bipolar disorder, dissociative identity disorder, and severe PTSD from unaddressed childhood trauma. It physically hurt to not be close to my husband, like an organ or a part of my body was ripped out. I later learned it was unhealthy dependency and not love. Through years of trying to understand how I could have done everything I did, I arrived at the conclusion that I did love my husband at some point when we first met and married, but then my unresolved issues made me withdraw and turn me abusive. I hated him for absolutely no reason. I never believed he actually could love me as much as he professed. My affair was a way to self-sabotage. I had such low confidence, and it was so unbelievable to me that someone could actually love me that much, that I assumed it was all a lie. And so I did everything to push him away. It's not that I fell out of love with him, I was simply incapable of loving anybody and anything, including myself, because of my diseases. I was very close to insanity. It would take me more than a year of work on myself to finally gain a healthy understanding of love and re-educate myself in relationships. But I didn't have that knowledge back then and mistook my yearning for my husband as love. As soon as I was stable enough to leave my ward, I tried to find out how my husband was doing. He had still not filed for divorce. I selfishly tried to contact him, but he shut me down. I devoted the next few months to doing my best to see how I treated him from his perspective, developing empathy for him, and making sure to maintain NC so he could heal from what I'd done to him. I did realize the best thing I could do was leave him the f alone, and I did. but I took the fact that I had not yet received any divorce papers as proof that he wanted me to be a better person, and if I did, he would come back to me. I was hoping for a miracle, but I'm glad I was able to maintain NC through all of it. I also self-reported myself as an emotional abuser, but only the victim can press charges. I no longer had self-harming thoughts. I gave up alcohol completely. I told my parents everything, and contrary to the indifference and isolation I was expecting, they instead showed me love and support. I even gained enough confidence to take the leap of faith and confess about a certain incident that happened during my childhood that I didn't think I'd ever have the courage to tell my parents about. I regretted my affair with every shred of my soul. I made wrong choices and had shitty boundaries. While all this was happening, I never received any notification of divorce proceedings. I used to dread checking my email. Whenever a letter arrived or the doorbell rang, it sent a shiver up my spine. But nothing happened. He contacted me after 2 years of breaking up. The miracle I was expecting turned out to be true. He really did come back. But he was a shell of a man compared to before. The years of emotional trauma I had inflicted upon him made him an alcoholic and a social recluse. In his isolation, he had come to believe the things I had said about him. To say I hated myself for what I'd done would be an understatement. He let me back into his life, in his house, and in his bed. I attempted to give some agency back to him. I listened to him, gave him personal space, never argued with him. I wrote a signed confessional letter admitting to emotional abuse and infidelity that he could use against me if he desired. I also kept trying to nudge him to go to therapy until he budged and enrolled for a weekly session. Slowly, he started recovering. He started going to the gym again and talking to more people. As he slowly started dealing with his trauma, my affair too came into the limelight of our conversations. He suffered from inadequacy for a long time. I offered my perspective, which he found hard to trust for obvious reasons. I never lied again, took 100% ownership of my affair, and listened to him vent. This went on for more than half a year. Through all of this, it was never really clear if we were reconciling or not. My focus was completely on helping him heal and recover from the emotional abuse I had inflicted on him and the trauma from my affair. I did want him back, but I also didn't want to force anything on him. Through my discussions with my own therapist, I got to know that victims of abuse often find it hard to let go of their abusers. Such people will often feel powerless in front of the person who abused them. That knowledge made my situation even more confusing. I didn't know if he let me back into his life because he truly wanted to try, or because as a victim of my abuse, he found it hard to let me go. This brings me to the present. I knew I needed to have this conversation with him sooner or later. I mustered every grain of courage I had in my soul and asked him if he wanted to reconcile. This was last week. It was the most vulnerable conversation I have ever had with him or anyone else. I had turned into a pool of tears by the time we finished, but basically, we came to the conclusion that he cannot be sure he truly wants to try reconciling or not. He still feels love towards me, but he doesn't know if it's real or just a side effect of the trauma I inflicted on him, so he asked that we separate peacefully. Deep down in my heart, I knew this was coming. We had conversations about divorcing, about our expectations from each other after separation. I explored the possibility of reconnecting after a few years, even just as friends. He turned it down, and I accepted it without question. For a long time, I felt nothing but numbness. The news took its time to sink in. I moved a week later. I'm only going to see him a handful of times again, and all of them in the presence of a lawyer. I sheepishly said goodbye when I stepped out the door. He showed me enough grace to smile and wave back. Only after I moved out did it finally sink in. Ever since, I cry every night. I suspect it's going to take me a few more days to grasp that this is it. I'm really, this time truly, losing the love of my life. I would have done anything. He's the best thing that ever happened to me by far. Nothing even comes close. The knowledge that it is all my fault, that I have no one to blame for this but myself, makes it worse. I don't know if I'll ever stop feeling this raging fire of hatred towards myself. I'm sure he's suffering as well, all because of me. He didn't deserve any of this. It will take him years to recover. He'll probably keep waking up screaming for a long time. He'll probably still hear my disgusting words ring in his head for a long time. And he'll probably always feel like I chose someone else over him. Neither of those was true. I'm back at my parents' house. My siblings have been trying to cheer me up, but it's hard not to hate myself right now. After almost a year, I've started having self-harming thoughts again. I feel like I have lost all purpose in my life. I was so focused on improving myself before because there was the slightest chance of him coming back. but what is even the point now? I have lost so much. Such a great person, such an amazing bond. I don't want anything else from life. I don't know how he is doing. I don't deserve to. I've been doing everything possible to make absolutely sure that I do not end up breaking NC in a moment of weakness. I know I won't, but I never know when one of my diseases might resurface. I hate that this is who I am. I hate that I have such a latent potential for destruction and complete selfishness. I hate that I have to keep this demon inside me in check at all times. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be infested with these mental illnesses. I wish every day that I woke up in someone else's body. And above everything else, I wish my issues were only limited to me. I wish they did not hurt other people around me as well. Why did he have to get hurt when those were my issues? My mental diseases. I should have been the one suffering. I should have been hurting, not him. I have vivid dreams about someone choking me in my sleep, or a truck driving over me. I don't even bother with trying not to cry anymore. I just go about my day while the tears keep flowing. I know I need to live. Back when I self-harmed and lost a finger, I promised him when he met me in the cabin that I would not kill myself. Every time I think of ending things, I remember that promise. I know that if I die, he will blame himself. I also remember the tears and concern on the faces of everyone else. My parents, my brothers, their wives. I don't want to inflict any further trauma on him, or any one of them. I have done enough already. I try to be present for my parents and my siblings. They care deeply for me and try to cheer me up. I don't think I have the capacity to be cheered up anymore. The best I can do is put on a happy face so I don't bring down the moods of people close to me. Once the divorce is done, I have resolved to admit myself back under supervised psychiatric care so I don't end up self-harming again. Thank you, whoever you are, for reading this till the end. Obviously, OP is garbage. She does seem to have some mental issues, but that is far from an excuse for cheating or the way she strung along her partner. I don't condone self-harm, but what I will say is that I find it satisfying that she finally realizes how badly she fucked up. The part about how she couldn't work up the nerve to face her parents about what she did really drove that home. This is simply another face the consequences of your action situation. However, this exact situation is somewhat different. OP's partner took her back, but as she shared, the man is completely different. And I couldn't help but feel immensely irritated that OP tried to make things better after all of the damage was done. OP needs to leave this man alone. She will just make his now miserable life even worse. In my opinion, she doesn't deserve the opportunity to try and right her wrongs. But perhaps you think I'm being too harsh. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. There was one line that OP wrote that said, "I'm sure he's suffering as well because of me," like no shit. As you're all going to see, the comments are way more forgiving than I am. User BuckFLS said, "I appreciate your heartfelt remorse and your forthright honesty and bravery in confessing publicly here, hoping to help others. You have been through and are still going through a fire. I think we all feel your pain. And you own the pain and devastation you wrought on your husband. I believe you are a good person and deserve happiness. Forgiveness from yourself or your husband? I don't know. Maybe find a way to live without that and just do better, be better going forward. I think it's okay for you to have hope. I think you should work on yourself, stay in therapy, get fit, work on your career, pursue ambitions and interests, become the healthier, better you that you can be. It's okay to. And I bet you'll look up one day and realize you found love again, and that you deserve it. Good luck to you." User Astro Capri said, "I'm really devastated for you, and though I obviously don't know what it's like, I do know what it's like to betray the one you love most and want to spend your life with at the hands of your own issues. I'm not a psychiatrist, so maybe my advice doesn't have much merit, but for me, it was important to separate my diagnosed mental issues from what I did. Like, I made those decisions myself. I f***ed up bad and lost the only person I care about with my own choices, not my mental issues. I say this because it's really easy to blame yourself for having those mental conditions, for not getting them treated sooner, and point to them for the cause of your devastation. And although yes, they definitely do have a big part to play in our betrayal, you shouldn't place the blame on them because that's much more hurtful to yourself. It makes you feel like you weren't ever in control of yourself and may never be. You've obviously taken accountability for your actions and you're paying such a huge price for them, but I think it's important to center yourself when thinking back on it and not the conditions you never asked to have. I think it makes it easier to forgive yourself this way because you realize that those choices were your own only, but you can and have changed. You're a different person that doesn't want to hurt anyone again. By feeling bad about and blaming your conditions, you only tell yourself that you were a slave to them, and if only you never had them, you would never have hurt who you loved. Separating the two, you can see that you made bad choices, but most people do in life, and you want to change and be better and work on yourself. And you can see that your mental conditions don't have ownership over you, and you can treat them day by day, and you're really brave for doing so. I wish you the best. User Yas Thompson said, "Wow, incredibly heartbreaking but an amazing post. I was betrayed similarly to your description above. It hurts so bad, and honestly, I wouldn't wish this feeling on Satan himself. Reading your honesty is incredibly validating. It's obvious you have worked very hard thus far. Please continue to post on Reddit. You are helping people heal. Great work. Keep making the next right choice. I'm praying for you." User Venom said, "This is definitely a sad post. I'm late in getting to fully read it. The remorse you have seems more genuine than most I have read. One thing I have to disagree with is where you say it isn't true that you chose someone else over your husband. That's exactly what you did by having an affair. I have read your most recent post as well. I do hope your life improves and that you stay well." This next post was made in the AITAH subreddit by a user named Obligation Serious 764. The post is titled WIBTA for calling off my engagement after my fiance basically said I'm not exciting. 29M, know this may sound like a huge overreaction on my part, but my head has been ringing ever since this happened. I've been engaged to my fiance, 28F, for a few months now. We had dated for just shy of 2 years prior to that. It would be cliche to say everything was going great, but for the most part, it was good. My family really took a liking to her, which was also really great. Now, I've never been one to think too much about how I'm viewed as a partner, but all of that changed recently. I basically overheard her on the phone telling her friend that if she wants to find the one, excitement isn't important. She basically said, "My partner isn't exciting, but he makes me feel safe." And that's when I realized I wanted to settle down with him. This hit me kind of hard. Reddit, I've read these types of posts before, you know, the whole she goes for bad boys then settles with a safe schmuck type of thing. But I don't think that's what she meant, so the day after, I just straight up told her that I overheard her talking about me and that I don't understand what she meant by not finding me exciting. She then told me that it's true that she doesn't find me exciting, but that doesn't matter. I honestly felt very hurt. Maybe my ego is fragile, I don't know, but it was a surprise to me because I felt like the way I see myself in my head was colliding with how she sees me, and it made me feel spaced out. I asked her what she means by not finding me exciting, and she didn't seem to know how to even answer. She could see I was upset, and as pathetic as this sounds, I made an excuse to leave and said we'll talk about it later. Ever since then, my head has been spinning. I ride motorcycles, I have tattoos, I go to the gym, I do MMA as a hobby. So how is it that I'm not the exciting guy? I've always seen myself as being that exciting guy. My ex was basically obsessed with me and constantly made it clear she found me exciting. But my now fiance doesn't see me as exciting for whatever reason. I was honestly shocked because I felt my sense of self kind of crumble. And what made it worse is I am excited by her. When I see her, I want to rip her clothes off. I want to do things. I think about her. But she seemingly doesn't see me the same way at all. As crazy as this sounds, I have considered calling off the engagement entirely. Am I being crazy here? I don't think OP is the asshole here. This is a valid reason to take a break. If your partner is already bored at this point, it will likely get worse and reach a breaking point eventually. Face the issue right now and get some professional help to see if there are things you can do better. If there isn't anything you can do to change your partner's opinion of you, then consider cutting your losses here and now. But I do want to clarify that this may be a non-starter. If OP's partner's personality and lifestyle fit with OP's, then this may not matter. But if she is very adventurous and OP doesn't meet her needs, then she may look for that fulfillment elsewhere. User Anime Theo said NTA for having feelings, but I would explore it with her. A long-term partner tends to be a stable partner. Life is at times a roller coaster, but it shouldn't always be high-stakes action. I'm not sure what she defines as exciting, but explore that with her. It sounds like she loves you and feels safe, and that is what a partner should be. Home. I'd suggest even premarital counseling so you can navigate this with someone who is neutral and can help guide the discussion. User Xanif said, I know this is a trope, but couples counseling and putting a pause on wedding planning. This is exactly what couples counseling is for. Communication issues. I remember on Reddit there was a story a while back where basically the poster posted that they didn't love their spouse. They were only with them because they were a good provider. People in the comments questioned her, and it turned out she had this weird and impossible fairy tale idea of what love is supposed to feel like. And the more she spoke, the more people were saying, that's what love is, you love him. Maybe your definition of excitement and hers are different. At the moment, you're swimming in your own head with your and only your definition of that word. You need to understand her definition. You'd be an asshole to yourself if you break this off without trying. Don't throw this relationship away until you both agree on the definition of words. Under this comment, user Brat Tamer Coffee said, I second the couple's therapy. It's probably just a miscommunication. OP's had his beliefs about himself attacked, which probably caused him to feel uncomfortable. This feeling OP is having, plus the fact he is getting married soon, might make him think this is going to be a long-term feeling, and there is probably little evidence that is true. This is dangerous thinking. It makes it sound like if OP wanted to, he could just find someone else who finds him exciting, idealizing a past relationship that had something he feels is absent in the current one. I think OP's feelings are valid, and I doubt he is the only person who felt like this before getting married. I'm not going to pass judgment on OP himself, but this person seems important to him, and I think calling off the engagement without any effort beforehand is not the right move. User Fire or Water Kai said NTA for feeling hurt, and your partner did you no favors by not answering the question. Spiraling is going to lead to the end of the relationship for certain. I wouldn't call it off just yet. She really needs to explain the whole exciting thing. Some women with shitty relationship past think exciting is toxic behavior, cheating, disrespect, etc. Maybe she has kinks, who knows. Your view of excitement is probably different. Definitely talk before pulling the plug. She could have said this all wrong, or if it's the worst, you at least knew before you got married and it's easier to break up than divorce. A few days later, OP gave us an update. The last few days have been a roller coaster of emotions. There were a lot of interesting perspectives from both male and female posters. It seems that the female posters said that being seen as safe is a really great compliment, whereas the male posters said I should run for the hills. Certainly an intriguing insight into how men and women see things differently, so I ended up talking to my fiance about what she meant. She seemed really nervous and knew that she had upset me. I have to admit, I was quite nervous too. It's not easy when your sense of self has crumbled. Learning that you aren't seen in the way you think you are is a very tough feeling. I can't describe it, but it made me really feel fragile in the truest sense of the word. I started by telling her that I was really upset about her comment because frankly, I had always thought I was that exciting guy to her. I told her that in my mind, I was the guy who made her heart skip a beat. So I had to brace myself and ask again what she meant when she said I wasn't exciting. She looked like she wanted to cry because I guess she could sense I was also upset. She said that she didn't want to hurt my feelings, but that I make her feel very safe and secure, and that with me, I'm not exciting in the sense that I don't give her thrills like her exes used to. Man, that hurt, but I was still confused. She was being really vague and not really clear in what she meant. I had to ask again what she meant by thrills, and she just began crying and apologizing. She tried to hug me, but I again walked out. I seem to do this when things get emotional. So I decided to take some shrooms and spend the day outside at a nearby lake. This helped me clear my mind and come to some devastating realizations about myself. I think what I realized was that I was lying to myself. Another commenter said it, which I didn't want to admit, which is I'm more into her than she is into me. I didn't disclose this in my first thread, but she never initiates sex. I don't think she's done that once. With my exes, they always initiated with me. You see, my fiance is beautiful to the point where I wonder how I landed her. But you see, that was the issue. Because I was so attracted to her, I wanted her approval. I know that sounds pathetic, but I was able to overlook red flags such as her lack of initiating sex. I thought if I stayed with her, she'd like me the way I like her. Now here's the kicker. I thought that if I proposed to her, then over time I could win her over. I've been with women who were madly into me, and my fiancé just didn't behave like them at all. In addition to never initiating, she never complimented me much. It was always one-sided. A lot of this begs the question, why would she even be with me? I think that she saw me as someone who could provide stability, and I guess maybe she thought my exterior, tattoos, motorcycles, MMA, craft beer, was a facade. I mean, maybe she was kinda right. Not that I don't enjoy those things, I do. But I am able to have that lifestyle because my parents are wealthy doctors. Maybe she thought I was cosplaying as a bad boy and that in actuality I am a loaded rich kid who provides stability. The other insight I had was that, truth be told, I didn't want to actually get married. I definitely do one day, but I didn't really think it through. I thought to myself that if I propose, I will grow accustomed to the idea of getting married. But the truth is, I kind of want to continue my lifestyle as it is, which involves riding my motorcycle, fixing muscle cars, traveling across the country, going to festivals, etc. Do I want to get married one day? Of course. But I want to be with a woman who is really crazy about me, someone who compliments me a lot, initiates sex, etc. So I ended up talking with her later on and telling her that I want to call things off and end things. I won't bore you with details, but yes, she cried a lot, even got angry, and said I wasted her time. I told her that it wasn't anything she did, but she didn't buy that and kept pressing. She told me that I misunderstood her comment, but I told her she couldn't even clarify what she thought. It ended with me telling her that I have nothing against her, but that I am just not ready for marriage. I told her that the lifestyle I want to continue, in addition to me not feeling the connection I thought I had with her, was why. It ended quite predictably, but I think going forward, I'm going to see a therapist to sort out my insecurities as well as find someone more compatible with myself. User Fire or Water Kai said, she still didn't answer what the exes did. That was so thrilling. I said it in your first post and I'll say it again. Some people think of toxicity as a thrill and I have a feeling that's what it is. At least you attempted to get an answer, and sorry it wasn't the one you deserved to hear. Feeling loved and safe is an important feeling, and it's what set my partner apart for me. Definitely didn't make him boring. Please don't change yourself on account of her crappy mindset. I laughed when she said you wasted her time. The lady doth protest too much. Under this comment, user Lady Geetha said, so many people, regardless of gender, equate drama with exciting. When you're with someone who is controlling / abusive / jealous / unstable / incompatible / etc., you experience major lows and major highs. Except the reason that the highs seem really high is because of the lows. So when you get stable in a relationship, you miss those highs. Here's the thing about stable. It typically surpasses the highs you had before, but you don't get the lows to compare it to. So it seems boring. Your fight or flight response isn't constantly being triggered, and you're not getting the rush from being safe afterwards. You're not getting the rush of neurotransmitters based upon your emotional response to the drama. In quotes, because some of that drama can be life-threatening. I'm with my partner because I feel safe with him. He's my home. There's no BS manufactured drama unless you consider the fact that the man does not know how to efficiently load a dishwasher and spoils our dogs more than he should, and we can communicate effectively. Our arguments are few and far between. He's been my home for more than a decade. That's what not exciting means to me, and I cannot wait to live the rest of our lives being boring together. I'm not saying that this is what OP's ex meant. I don't know her and I'm not about to put words in her mouth, just that this is something that I've noticed in 30 plus years of dating and observing the relationships of friends and family. User Anaya Baby said NTA. It sounds like you went through a really intense and emotional process of self-reflection. Breaking things off was a huge decision, but it seems like you came to some important realizations about what you really want and need in a relationship. It's not easy to confront those truths about how you're feeling and admit that something isn't working, especially when you've invested so much. Going forward, therapy could be a great way to process everything and help you focus on finding a deeper connection with someone more aligned with your desires. User That Damn Pirate said, so here's the thing. I've come to learn that some people don't want the good guy or girl. There's a reason why people constantly run back to their toxic exes. They think the highs and lows that come from a toxic relationship are exciting and whatnot, which is total crap, but it is what it is. I'd give anything to have a man that made me feel safe and was stable. Hence my single status. These kinds of men are hard to find. Don't settle. You will find someone who finds the safety and security you provide to be a godsend. Trust me, do not ever settle, ever. Live your life freely, and the right person will match and complement you in every way. As a fellow writer and car girl, dude, you got this. Be happy and in love with yourself first and foremost. The right one will come in divine timing.